Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Todd's Podcast. Today, it's all about the world of bees, and not the ones from Tommy Boy, but real live bees. And our guest today is Robbie Bell. Robbie is one of the largest, if not the largest, beekeeper here in Florida, and a leader in the industry. And we're going to talk to Robbie a little bit about what he does, how he does it, the good, the bad, and the ugly of beekeeping. You probably know someone who's doing beekeeping. I've got a brother who's doing it. I've got some other friends that are doing it. Robbie, I appreciate you coming in and taking some time to talk to us today.
Well, thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. I'm always interested in talking about bees and helping people learn.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your background? How did you get into the bee business?
Okay, well, I started as kind of a hobbyist back in the mid-'70s. My grandfather was a backyard beekeeper. I worshiped the ground he walked on, and so he had a few bees in his backyard, and then he had some bees in Orange Grove out east of Fort Meade. And so I started learning from him, and it just started growing. I got up to 12, 15 hives, and then it got to 100, and I started working for Publix right out of high school as a meat cutter. Kept bees as I worked, and the operations kept growing, and it ended up making more money keeping bees than what I did working at Publix. So it just turned into a full-time deal. And then I bought a gentleman out in Bartow. His name was Charlie Griffin, and he really taught me a lot, and it just kept growing from there.
So you obviously have made a living and supported your family, raised a family on the bee business income. How hard is that for someone to do? I mean, you run it as a business, and like you said, there's a lot of folks that just are backyard beekeepers. What's the good and the bad and the ugly of saying, hey, I think I want to do this as a commercial enterprise. I got to make enough money to support a family. What are the decisions that went into you making those decisions, making that?
Well, it's agriculture. So anybody that works with agriculture knows that there's going to be great years that you've made more money than you ever made in your life, and there's going to be the bad years
that you lose more money than you had.
You lose all the money that you had made prior to that. And that was one of my big struggles starting out. Looking back, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have got me a degree in business, because I bought a lot of lessons,
right?
Especially budgeting,
right?
But it's beekeeping's tough, and it has changed. The face of the industry has changed so much from the early '80s when I started to today.
Just a level of sophistication, I would assume.
Exactly. And so when we started, beekeeping was you made honey. Nobody ever thought that a farmer would be paying me to pollinate his crops. And so back in the 80s and 90s, we made orange honey, which was famous. Unfortunately, there's no orange honey anymore, because with greening, it has just about wiped out our citrus industry. We made gallberry, which is in North Florida, and I would send bees to North Dakota to make clover. In the mid-'90s, I started getting phone calls from farmers saying, hey, we need bees for our watermelons and bees for our cantaloupe, strawberries, blueberries, any of the fruits. And I'm like, this is crazy. A farmer was paying me to put bees on their property or put bees on their crops. So the industry has changed in that fact. I stay booked up 2 years in advance. We're sending bees to California. We do almonds in California. So the industry's changed.
Do bees pollinate just about every crop out there?
Just about any of the fruits. We do apples, blueberries, cantaloupes, squash, cucumbers, all of that. About 75 to 80% of all the food that you eat is directly related to bees, and it's very important. Our food supply depends on our bees. Even if you look at on the cattle industry and stuff, all the northern cattle especially, the farmers feed them alfalfa.
Right.
Bees have to pollinate alfalfa for the hay, so it's kind of indirectly related to cattle and hogs and all this, But Albert Einstein once said that the honeybee's the canary to the human race. If the honeybee ever disappears, within 7 years, the human race would.
Wow.
So they're very important.
We'll talk about that in a little bit, but what's the scientific name of a beekeeper or the bee business?
Well, so I guess the scientific name, I'm an apiarist.
Apiarist.
Okay.
Easy
Yard
for you
of
to
bees. So when you're driving down the road and you see a yard of bees out there on the side of the road, that's called an apiary, which is a group of bees.
Okay. And that's not a colony.
No. The colony is just a beehive.
Okay.
So.
How many bees do you typically keep?
It varies, somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 hives. I'm a mid-size operation, probably one of the larger in the state of Florida, but there's some really big operations in the Midwest. I got a couple friends that's got 60, 70,000 hives.
With 4,000 bees in it, approximately?
No. Okay, so I run 4,000 hives.
Okay.
Each hive has, and it's according to what time of year. This time of year, they got about 30,000.
Good Lord.
In the springtime, when the queen starts laying, in the springtime, they know it's time to get out and start making honey or whatever, they'll get up to 80 to 100,000 bugs. So each hive has got somewhere between 40 to 100,000 bugs in it.
And how many of those bugs can one queen service?
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
She lays
one per hive.
Yeah, so there's one queen per hive. And
Busy woman.
She is. But she's laying, at her peak, she's laying somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day.
Wow.
She's poking them. And it's kind of interesting, so when we're so hard on our bees because we're shipping them by semi all over the country.
Right.
And so our queens last about a year, maybe a year and a half at the most.
They're worn out by then.
They're wore out. Basically what we do, we go in the hive and we can notice if the bees are not as strong, or if the queen, by looking at the eggs and stuff where she's laying it, she's starting to become sterile. What we do, which is kind of rude, but we catch her and we pinch her head off,
right,
throw her in the bottom of the hive, and all the bees that protect her is like, oh Lord, something's happened to mom. And then what we do, we order breeder stock out of California and Hawaii, and they send us more bees or more queens, and we stick a queen in.
So how long does a worker bee last? You say the queens, you get a year and a half.
This time of year, they'll last a few months. Springtime, 2 weeks at the most.
Really?
Yeah, because she wears her wings out. So
the queen does?
No, the worker.
And the workers are females?
Yeah. So all bees, except for less than 1%, are females in the hives, and the only difference between the worker and the queen is the worker's ovaries are not developed.
Okay.
The other ones, the other 2% are drones, which mate with the queens.
So is that the drone's only job is really to mate with the queen?
They don't fly,
work or
they
do
don't
anything?
work. They're a little bit larger than the workers. They don't have a stinger. Drones can't sting you, but their only purpose is to mate with the queen. And so and they have to fly. So when a virgin queen hatches out, she leaves the hive and flies, and a group of drones will follow her, and she's spewing pheromones, which are hormones. So not only with the drones from that hive, but there's drones from hives all in the area can smell that, and she'll mate with 8 or 10 drones on her mating flight, and that's the last time she mates for life.
On one flight?
On one flight.
So they impregnate her or whatever, right, pollinate her, right, whatever the term is in your world, once, and that's it. Then she just stores. Her
semen sac is full, and that lasts her the rest of her live. It's amazing.
So she doesn't produce more internally, or once she's impregnated,
So once she,
that's it. I'm not trying to get too scientific.
I know. So once she's impregnated, she yes, that semen is there, and and I'm maybe talking out of my expertise, but that will last her for her ovaries to protect, as she's laying. That every egg is fertilized.
Wow.
And the difference, which is kind of interesting, is so this queen's laying these 2,000 eggs a day, and something happens to her, whether Robbie comes in and kills her, or she just gets old and die. When the workers find out that she's gone, they will designate certain eggs in that hive. It's usually 7 or 8 at the most, and they will feed those eggs the royal jelly, which you buy in the health food stores.
Right.
And that's what develops ovaries. It's full of protein and all kinds of other good stuff, which develops the protein. And so that's the only difference between that queen and the workers, her ovaries. The workers aren't fed as much of that, so their ovaries are not.
So you might have just said this, and I'm trying to decipher all the science you just gave us. What makes the queen the queen? I mean,
It's what she's fed.
It's what she's fed.
Yeah.
So it could have been any of those females. It's just one that is fed the certain diet, and
Right.
she's now
She's
ordained as the queen,
designated, and
designated.
usually like I say, there's 7 or 8 of them, what we call queen cells. And what happens is the first one, usually the first virgin that hatches, the first thing she does in life is go to all of them other cells and choose them out the side and kills them.
Get rid of the competition.
Just rid of the competition, and then she'll be, kind of get introduced into the hive, and 3 to 7 days she flies on her mating flight, and she mates with the drones, and then she comes back.
So when she dies or you pinch her head off, how long does it take a new queen to establish her?
Well, if they were raising their own queen, it takes 11 days.
Okay.
It takes 21 days for a worker. From the time that egg is laid till it hatches is 21 days on a worker, 11 days on a queen. And so they're queenless, and we can tell because we'll pop the lid off the hive, and if they're loud and very aggressive, wanting to sting us real bad, I'm like, this one's already queenless.
Okay.
But what we usually do, now sometimes, and it's according to time of the year, we'll let them raise their own queen, which puts us back 11 days. But during the season when we're needing a productive hive, that's where I buy queens from. But they're like $30 a piece, and you're buying
queen.
4,000. It can cost a lot of money.
But those 11 days are critical because you have a certain timeline, time frame that you got to produce.
Yeah. During pollination season, our pollination season starts the last week of January. We load our trucks, semis, and I don't have semis. I use a trucking company, and we load 17 semis. They go to California. They're in California from the last week of January to about the 10th of March, and then they're all loaded back on them semis, sent back to Florida, and we start doing watermelon pollination from Sebring, Lake Placid, all the way to Macon, Georgia.
Do the bees have a preference, or they don't care?
They really don't care. Certain crops they like better. No, they love almonds. Almonds is the pollen has got a lot of protein. It's really good for them. There's a little nectar flow. Almond honey is the nastiest stuff you've ever put in your mouth. So we don't.
I've got a jar for you, Eli, next time.
I have to pass on that one.
But
that's your Christmas bonus instead of the chili of the month club. You get almond honey.
Almond honey. You'll know it. You won't never want none more. But it's good for the bees. The bees like it. But we get them back, and then we send bees to Maine, or in the summertime, apples in New York in April and May. We do. This year we're doing for the first time. We're going to do watermelons in Indiana, which they don't need melons or bees for melons till first week of June. You would go by the season. So, it's warm down in Florida, but then the spring starts breaking up into the northeast, and so they're 2 or 3 months later. So when the crop, say the watermelons, the bees down there, well, they need them 4 weeks, and then them bees get picked up and moved north. So it's kind of.
So what rules and regulations are there about shipping bees? I mean, you're going across state lines, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they're all pretty particular. I've heard a little bit from you.
California is a pain in the rear. We dealing with the farmers in California are the nicest. They talk our talk. They're farmers,
Right.
But dealing with the government,
politics
is a
are-
whole different ball game. But so we're regulated in the state of Florida by the Department of Plant Industry. They come out once a year. They inspect our bees and make sure that we don't have any diseases and stuff. But most commercial outfits don't, because our livelihood depends
Right.
on disease-free bees. So we get once we get inspected, we get a permit. We get a certificate of health.
Okay.
And so that allows us to go through other states.
You get that from Florida.
Yeah, state
and
of
that
Florida.
gets you
And
across
most
every
all
state
the
line,
states accept that.
except California.
Except for California. They accept our certificate of health, but California says they don't have ants, fire ants. Well, they do. Because when you go in the warehouses out there, they got pallets of Amdro. And I'm like, I didn't think y'all had ants, and which the farmers will tell you they do. But anyway,
Right.
So what we do before they're shipped out of Florida, we pressure wash all of our pallets. We put Amdro around our pallets, and we do this a month before, make sure everything's clean. And then the state of Florida comes back, and we get what they call a RIFTA certificate. And I'm not sure what that stands for, but so we give it to the truck.
you got to have it.
Well, you don't, but if you don't have to have it, but when you get to Needles, California, which is the entry port, if you don't have that certificate, they find one fire ant, and you got your choice. You either pay $5,000 for them to wash that semi, or you go back home. Well, you already got $12,000 in freight. You might as well pay the extra $5,000. They're holding you hostage.
Right.
But if you got the RIFTA, you get 5 ant tolerance. Now, the process of this is really interesting, because what they do, they take a stick, and the bees are netted down on the semi with nets, and they pull that net out, and they put a piece of Spam on the end of that stick, and they stick it up in that semi. And they say an ant would go 50 miles to eat Spam.
Really?
So
I've never had Spam in my life.
I have, but it's been 50 years, I think.
Does it go well with almond honey?
Probably. But anyway, they stick that Spam in there, and they leave it for 45 minutes. And so supposedly, I know it's a fact, then if there's ants on there, they're going to go. So if they pull that Spam out, and if you got the RIFTA, you got 3 ants, they're like, okay, you can go, but you got to let us know where you drop the bees and all that. Then they never come check, because they don't have the manpower. But if you don't have the RIFTA, they're like, okay, you got to go to the wash station 4 miles down the road and write a check for $5,000. I have been caught with ants. It's been 4 years, but it's a racket.
Yeah.
It's a racket, and you just got to jump through the hoops.
Got to play the game.
But other states accept our certificates and all, and so because bees, I mean, there's no bees. A lot of bees in the Northeast during wintertime, so all the farming, the apples and the blueberries, they use up, the bees come out of the sale.
Are they that susceptible to cold? Is that why there's not that
No,
many?
they winter bees in Canada.
Okay.
But most beekeepers, even the big beekeepers in the Northeast, and all winter bees down in Florida and Texas, South Georgia and Louisiana, is where bees are wintered.
We got snowbirds and snow bees.
Yeah, and so they winter them down here. They can do a lot of their work, because Florida don't have no cold anymore. We haven't had a frost much in 5-6 years, and so there's always flowers blooming, and the bees keep the queen keeps laying. Up north during wintertime, she shuts down. She don't lay an egg. In fact,
2,000 a day. You'd think she'd earn a break.
yeah, she does, and they club what we call cluster. So if it's 0 degrees outside, they get in a ball about the size of a basketball, and they
Generate
cluster
their own
real
heat.
tight, and they kind of vibrate, and which causes a little friction. It keeps them kind of warm, and that queen's right in the middle. And so the beekeepers can't work their bees from November to March or whatever to winter breaks.
It's good to be the queen.
It is that time of year.
Yeah.
But bees,
We had someone like that on our county commission for a while.
But we deal with other things. We deal with certain diseases.
Right.
Bees get American foul brood, which is a bacteria that leads on the larva.
Is that what the big menace of the bee
No,
industry was?
no,
Recently there's been I should say all kinds. There's been a lot of information about some disease that's going.
Well, it's
through.
not a disease; it's a mite.
Okay.
It's the varroa mite. They were introduced here in the mid '90s. I think they come out of South America
Or California.
yeah. Probably California thinks they don't have the varroa mite either, but it's about the size of a cat flea. You can see them right on the back of their neck, and they devastated this industry. I mean, our losses were always 10%, and with this varroa, it's 40 to 50%. We rebuild our operation every year. So when we get through all of our pollination, all the bees get home the first week of June. We spend all summer and all fall rebuilding, building new bees because they're so decimated by not only the varroa mite.
Is that mite still out there?
Yeah, we treat for it. There's a treatment we use, amitraz, that Dow Chemical, I think, or Bayer makes. It's like a no-pass strip. You put it in the hive, and it's weird because you're trying to kill one bug without killing the other bugs.
Right.
So it does make them a little sick, but we treat for mites.
Are y'all getting back ahead of the?
No, we're figuring it out. And the problem with, we started, if you listen to the news over the years, the bees, they call it colony collapse. And it basically, the beekeeper goes out, his bees are here today, he goes back 2 weeks later, and they're gone. And
Gone dead or gone away?
well, that's what we don't know.
Oh, okay.
They're dead. And we're finding out that this mite, it carries some viruses, and where the mite punctures the back of the bee's neck, these viruses are coming in and it's killing the bees. Another thing we're dealing with is the pesticides that farmers use, and I work with great farmers. The key to this thing is communication. So I know when they're spraying, they know not to spray in the daytime when the bees are foraging. They can spray at night because all the bees are back home. Now we have to be careful with the drift from the sprayer if it drifts over there to the bees. But the bees still get sick because a couple of things. Even the fungicides that the farmers use, it gets rain and it runs off into their reservoirs, where the bees go down to the reservoirs and drink this stuff, and they bring it back to the hives. They feed the young, and they get sick. They get different issues, K-wings, and just weird stuff.
Is there any such thing as real, true organic honey then? I mean, if they're all susceptible to it, if it's all in the water
I've
supply.
always questioned that, because a bee will travel 2 miles radius of the hive, and which there's going to be some beekeepers that listen to this podcast probably argue with me, but if your bees are sitting on one farm and he's all organic, because I do some organic almonds, but who says that bee is not going to fly 3 miles down the road and go to a farm that's not organic?
Or the aeration of the mist or whatever.
And stuff. So, no, I don't think there is, but we deal with these pesticides, and now actually we're feeding bees the probiotics, the same stuff you buy at Publix for our gut. We're feeding it in the feed with bees because these fungicides are messing their guts up, and they can't process their food and stuff. And I kind of think that's probably some of our issues.
Would that be the weekend warriors? I mean, would they do the same thing, or is that chemical? Is that drug? Is that chemical?
I don't think
probiotic?
the weekend warriors, because they don't move their bees like we do.
Okay.
And your backyard beekeepers, they pretty much got their 3 beehives in the backyard, and
they're kind of making honey for their family or
right.
friends.
And I mean, like here in Lakeland is a wonderful place to put bees because there's a lot of stuff blooming all the time.
Yep.
Rain trees, which bloom in the fall, really good. The Brazilian pepper, and probably a few orange trees left around, but it's just tough to get, people call me a lot and they say, hey, I want to get, well, your brother, he's got 4 or 5 hives, and I think he lost all of them one year and then had to kind of get started. It's tough to keep them alive. And
right.
You got to, if somebody wanted to be a backyard beekeeper, I think my suggestion would be to get with your extension agents. University's got one. The University of Florida has one of the top schools in the nation. Their apiary research program,
right.
And the county extensions, they do that. And also, I think there's a Polk County beekeeping club. I think
there is.
The Ridge beekeepers or
yep.
something like that. And just get with other beekeepers, that can really help them out. Because I promise you get 2 or 3 hives, you're going to spend a fortune for the bee suit and all the hardware and stuff. And chances are they're going to be dead in a year's time, and then you're going to think, what did I do? And it's really what you done is what you didn't do as far as
right.
mite treatments and all. We never had this issue when I started, and now it's like everything in this world, it's complicated.
Hey, listeners.
Hey, everyone.
Hola.
Hi, all.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is Rob Palumbo.
This is Fred Hyde.
This is Juliet Ashley Vide.
Dr. Angela Garcia Falconetti.
This is Congressman Scott Franklin.
This is Margie Grant.
This is Jake Palumbo.
And I want to thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Thank you for listening to Todd's podcast.
Please make sure that you like and or subscribe.
Don't forget.
Don't forget
to subscribe to Todd's podcast on your favorite podcast app. Tune in and listen.
Join in and listen to us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Listening to you describe the business as a very collaborative business amongst fellow beekeepers. As they want to try and help you out. It seems like because they may need help at some point,
Right.
but it's like, hey, you may be experiencing something today that they may be experiencing in a year or two,
Right.
And if they can start learning from you as the backyard weekend warrior,
Right.
you may be able to pass some solutions on to them, and
Right.
Well,
This industry's open because beekeeping's hard work. It's farming. I mean,
right.
It's, if you're in it for the glamour, you better find you another job because there's not that. But the age, most of the beekeepers up there. There's not a lot of young people wanting to get into this, and it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough lift. It's been very satisfying for me. I love it. I'm thinking about selling out in the next year or so, but I'm not sure. I still lay in bed and my passion's there. I still lay in bed and think about bees, and I'm thinking, well, as long as I'm doing that, maybe that's something I need to. Even if I sell out, I'm going to stay active, either lobbying or going around, and because there's a good group of guys that we talk and we exchange ideas.
Right.
I sit on the county Farm Service Board here in Polk County, and also the Farm Bureau Apiary Task Force. So I'm kind of involved with that.
How many different types of bees are there? I think, the honeybee is what everyone just kind of generically thinks.
Right.
And the bumblebee, but I mean.
That's kind of one reason we started the pollination stuff and farmers started using us. So there used to be bumblebees everywhere, butterflies. There's other species of bees. I think they got what they call a blueberry bee.
You don't see many bumblebees.
You don't see none of this. And it's all environmental. It's, so they're here. I mean, every once in a while you see a bumblebee, but that's one reason that we're doing so well or we're so busy pollinating crops is because there's not a lot of what we call natural pollinators anymore.
So were they natural predators to the honeybees?
No. And bumblebees don't make honey. The honeybee is the only species that makes honey. They had them in Egypt, Africa. The the honeybees here in the United States, I think, were brought in from Europe, because one of the species of the European honeybee. But they found, we know this because they found honey in the tombs of Egypt and that was edible. Because honey does not go bad.
Right.
Only thing that causes honey to go bad is water.
Right.
Any moisture, and it causes the ferment, and I guess you've heard of mead,
Yeah.
which is fermented honey. But as long as you keep water away from honey, it lasts thousands and thousands of years. And, we talk about
And
honey,
the product never degrades in
it don't-
quality
it-
or nutrition.
It will crystallize.
Right.
And the way to do that is to get it back to liquid is just put it in not boiling water. Your container, just put it in warm water and just let it sit for an hour, and it'll turn right back into honey. Or carry it out in the backyard in the summertime, put it out there and let the sun will turn it back to liquid.
So if you get the honeybee with a little tip on it, the honey bear, sorry, not the honey bear, and it starts crystallizing, you can put that in some.
Well, yeah, I tried putting it in the microwave one time. That was not smart. It blew up with me. But
Well, I think maybe you take the top off. Or the
yeah,
lid
that
off.
would help. That would help. But anything, it needs to be.
So the steam that goes around it doesn't seem to.
As long as you
go
don't
in.
no. As long as it's in a glass or plastic and the lid's on tight, just warm it up. And now honey will get darker over
Right.
time. So if you get, my favorite honey is clover, and it's almost what we call water white. It looks like the water in this glass here, but over a year or so time, it starts turning to the color of these chairs we're sitting in.
Does it change the taste?
Not really.
But it's just
Clover honey's my favorite. It's got a cinnamon taste
Okay.
to it, and I got a friend that makes clover honey in North Dakota. He always brings me down a case of honey every year because I like it in my coffee.
Yeah, you're the second person that I've talked to that puts it in their honey. I've
coffee,
put it in
yeah.
tea, and
I think that it'd be great in tea. And a lot of people cook with honey. I've never have. Now I say that barbecue, and you always
Right.
want to put a little honey with your barbecue sauce and stuff.
right,
like
just to
that.
sweeten it up. From what I'm hearing is the bee business is really local. Sounds like it. But you're getting honey in from clover, which is what you say, North Dakota,
North
South
Dakota, Midwest.
Midwest. And is there one region, or is honey produced in every country in the world?
Yes. Well,
or are there some that?
Yes. So the United States consumes more honey than what we produce. I don't know that every country, because the desert countries don't,
Right.
because we need flowers for them to make it. But China is one of our biggest competitors, and it's been a nemesis for us for 30, 40 years.
We take China honey?
We
don't
do,
keep it
and
out?
the beekeepers, it's a cycle we go through. The packers, they can produce honey in China pennies on the dollars,
Right.
just like every other commodity. So the packers, in the United States, our honey is superior to Chinese honey. So they ship this honey in here, and I'm just going to use a price, say $1.10 a pound. Well, we got to have $2 a pound to break even, and they mix it with our honey to bring the grade up. I've heard stories of Chinese honey coming in with rats floating in the top of the drums. I heard, this has been years ago, a load of honey, they found a car transmission in the barrel. So
Maybe Jimmy Golf is next.
we have tariffs. The Department of Commerce, I think it is, puts tariffs on the honey. Well, what China does is circumvent. Instead of sending the honey to us directly, they'll send it to Vietnam or South America, and then South America sends it to us. And so that's how they get around it. There's getting ready to be another set of tariffs put on, because our honey price has gone from $3 a pound, which is pretty good. And I think the last bunch of honey I sold 3 or 4 months ago, we sold about 40 drums. I got $1.95.
Doesn't seem like it's going down in the grocery store.
It's not. But our margin, our profit margin is very slim on honey. Everything has to work perfect.
Are there any zoning laws that would prohibit me from putting them in my backyard. Obviously, you're more on the agriculture side. I don't think you have any at your house.
Not really.
But on the ag side, I would think, hey, if you got a crop, you can put them there. But if you live in a neighborhood, can you?
I know there's some zoning, not issues, but I think there's some setbacks from you can't put a beehive right on the line because, if it was me, it's according to how big your property is.
Right.
But if you had a hedge between you and your neighbor, bees, the problem is if it's all open and the neighbor goes by the beehive with his lawnmower, it's not going to be a pretty sight. So,
or his little boy starts throwing rocks at it.
And I've had that. A quick story. I had a bunch of, at the time were teenagers, and they were throwing baseballs. No, I'm sorry. They were throwing oranges at my beehives, and they knocked the lids off and everything. I found out who it was, and I went, got them. I knew the kids. I'm like, y'all gonna go put the lids back
without a suit on?
Without a suit, and their eyes got like. I said, no. I said, you tore them up. You're putting them back, and them kids were almost in tears, which I didn't make them. And then I had the guy that thought it was funny out there on 80-foot road. A couple of teenagers run over a bunch of my beehives with their 4-wheel drive truck.
Thinking it's funny, or they just...
Yeah, funny. The funny thing on my side was all 4 tires of their truck got flat from the nails, and they had to leave the truck in the bee yard because they couldn't move it, and then they had to come back, which we got the sheriff department involved on that one. So, yes, but going back to our own zoning, I don't think there's...
Sounds like everything's local. Check with your city or your municipality, your county, and say, hey, I'm looking at some bees.
But we greenbelt. I mean, one of my properties where we put bees that I own in Fort Meade, we greenbelt it because you're allowed to have...
Right.
Bees are accepted as a greenbelt.
So what benefit is there from eating honey? I know it's good for allergies. I keep
heard
hearing,
that.
hey, you want local honey. You don't.
They say that, the local honey. Honey is natural, which is a big deal. Most dietitians will tell you that honey gets in your bloodstream a lot quicker because it's easier to break down because honey is sucrose.
Right.
So that's what the same sugar family is sugar. Just being natural and made off the land, I think.
Someone told me it's because the pollen, if you're allergic to something and you're allergic to that pollen, if you take some of it and you start ingesting it a little bit at a time, maybe you build up some
I have people,
antibodies or immunity to whatever.
And that makes sense. I mean, because say the bees made honey in Fort Meade, the oak trees and stuff that bloom, and they make honey off oak trees. People don't realize it, but all the flowers, so it's the same pollen that you're breathing in. And there's research out there that says that over a long period of time, but with us, we're moving bees so much, we don't know what honey's made and where it was made and stuff like that.
So you don't just say, we used to have the orange blossom honey, but you don't say, hey, this is blueberry honey or this is watermelon honey.
Well, I do. If
brand it somehow.
Yeah, if I put bees, I got a lease with Ben Hill Griffin, and so we'd still put some bees in their grows, and it was orange honey. Then we can put a label on there. If we made honey up in Folkestone, Georgia, where we go for a goldberry, we can call it goldberry. But most of the time, we just call it wildflower.
What plants do you think make the best honey? You've tasted honey from all over. You like the clover honey, but
I like clover and I like goldberry because it's a very mild honey. Orange, people love orange, but orange has got a little acidity to it because it's citrus. Orange is good, but I like the goldberry, and clover's my favorite. But there's alfalfa, there's buckwheat, there's a lot of different honeys, a lot of hardwoods.
If you get into limes or lemons, can you taste that in the honey?
Yes.
Does that have a more acidic flavor than the oranges even?
It does. And even we don't make blueberry honey here, but up in Maine, they actually make a little blueberry honey. It's wild blueberries, and it actually got a blueberry taste to it. So it's interesting.
Just going back to when you said that, it just stuck in my head about the organic. If you're organic and the guy or gal next to you is not, and these bees fly 2 miles or travel 2 miles, that seems like there's really no barrier keeping them down. And if you put them in your backyard, even if you have a hedge or whatever, those bees can still figure out and go up around it.
But they're when they go up, they're actually a little higher, and I guess there's some protection. My biggest deal is the liability in. You just never know. With somebody, and the thing is, just because a bee sting is that you don't know if that bee come from that beehive or a beehive up in an oak tree somewhere.
Right. So I'm assuming you've been stung hundreds and hundreds of times. Have you just built up such an immunity that?
I think so. And I'm going to this quick story. So when I first started with my grandfather, and like I said, I worshiped the ground he walked on. So we went out to Lake Buffalo to pull orange honey. And so we went out there in his old pickup truck, and we started what we call pulling honey, pulling the boxes off and getting the bees out. Well, them bees tore my butt up. I got stung in the face, and I had a veil on, but the bees got up under the veil, and I took off running just wide open down the road. He was hollering at me, "Get your butt back here! Yeah, you can do this," and all that. And long story, we got home, and when I got home, my eyes I couldn't see. I mean, looked like I was deformed, and my mom's like, "What in the world happened to you?"
Papa beat me.
Papa, and I called him Papa. And I said, "Papa, we got stung," and they had to carry me to a doctor there in town, Dr. Lindsay, and he gave me a shot of epinephrine, and my eyes. And the next day I could see a little bit, but it was crazy. And my mom put her finger in my face and she said, "If you ever touch another beehive or go with your grandfather to the beehives, I'm going to beat your butt." And
you fooled her, didn't you?
And here we are. We're sitting here today, 50. I've been in this business 43 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Beeswax. Tell me a little bit about beeswax.
Okay, so
is that a byproduct?
It is. It's a byproduct. So when bees are flying, they have little gland right kind of under their neck, and it produces the wax. And beeswax, if you've ever looked at you've seen the comb, so that's made out of beeswax. They also use it, the cap. So when they make the honey, they put a capping on the honey to keep it from leaking out of the cells. Beeswax is very expensive. It's like $3.50 a pound, $4.50 a pound. They use it in mainly cosmetics and some other industries. I think they used to use it for making gun shells, or casings or something. But so when the bees can't make beeswax in the hive, they have to fly. So the workers, when they're flying, this gland processes the wax, and when they come in, and I've seen them deposit, it looks like a snowflake, it's just a little flat white flake, and it comes out, and they take it and mold it and all. And it's funny because bees see an octagon. If you look at the bee comb, I think they call it octagon, 8 sides, and that's kind of the way they make that wax. It's amazing.
I wonder how you could ever tell if a bee was cross-eyed then.
I don't know. We'd be in trouble, because there's some diseases.
Maybe looking at 16 squares instead.
Yeah, there's some of these diseases that come out. You probably heard me call K-wings. The bees, when they hatch, their wings messed up. Well, if a bee can't fly, they're no good to us. So it's interesting.
Well, it sounds like you're pinching the head off the queens much.
I know. People, I have to be careful when I say that, because I have had people look at me and give me a dirty look.
Hey everybody, this is your host Todd Dantzler, and I hope you're enjoying this episode. I would like to take a moment to do a shameless plug for my real estate business. I've been in this business for over 41 years. I know, you're thinking he can't be, he's so young looking, but no, it's true. I've been actively listing and selling commercial real estate my entire working career on properties ranging from ag land to multifamily projects to office and commercial and industrial properties. I have held the distinguished CCIM designation since 1991. This is the highest designation you can achieve in the commercial real estate field. I believe that a big part of my success in the real estate business is because of the relationships that I have fostered throughout the state of Florida and also right here in Polk County. So if you have any real estate needs in buying or selling, please give me a call to see if I can help out. My direct line to my desk is 863-877-2846. Again, that's 863-877-2846. So we got a few minutes left, and we've got some questions that have been submitted by different folks. When I told them, different folks, hey, I'm going to be talking to Robbie Bell and beekeeping and about it. And so kind of have a little bit of a lightning round, just you don't need to go into deep things. But do you still enjoy the taste of honey, or are you kind of immune
honey.
to it? I mean, you dream about it, but I didn't know you dream about tasting it.
I like honey. It's not, I don't eat it every day. Well, I put it in my coffee every day.
Right.
Yes, I like the taste, and there's nothing better than getting honey right out in the field, a hive that's just made orange honey or clover, whatever, and just taking your hive tool, which is a tool that we use to pry stuff, and just tasting it. Now, having done that, I've done it and then been stung on the tongue, because with bee, you pull your veil up and put the hive tool up there with some honey on it. But no, I love honey.
Are you kind of immune to getting hit by them?
Yeah, I swell up a little bit if they sting me in the face. I don't wear a lot of the suits and all. My hands, it hurts. It hurts just as bad as the first day I ever got stung.
So you're not immune to the pain?
I don't, no.
Why do wasp stings hurt so much more than a bee sting?
I don't know.
A wasp sting can drop you to your knees.
Them or yellow jacket, but no, and if I'm working bees all day, and if I get 8 or 10 stings, that's kind of a normal day. It's not much different than an electrician getting shocked, or a welder getting burnt. It's just part of our job. A lot of my guys that work for me, they dress up in the bee suits, and they got the long gloves and all that. But summertimes in Florida, when the older you get, I can't take the heat no more. So I don't mind getting 4 or 5 stings.
How hard is it to find labor to help you that shows up on Monday mornings and is there all day? And
it's tough. I got a group of great guys. They're good. They show up when they need to. But it's like all the other industries in the United States. It's just hard to get.
And keep good ones.
And keep good ones. And a lot of operations are going to H2As, because them guys, they work. That's the only thing on their mind. And we've considered and thinking maybe might do something next year, but it's tough. And, it's just hard to get somebody out there to work for $20, $24, $25 an hour. They all want more.
If a bee stings you, do they leave their stinger in you, and do they die at that point? Is that the truth?
No, that's the truth.
Okay.
So when she stings you, you're going to see the stinger, and it's going to have a little sac.
Right.
And you can actually see that sac just pumping.
And pumping venom into your
So what you had, the worst thing you can do is try to grab it, and you take your fingernail and you just rake it across your arm.
With the grain or against the grain?
With the grain.
With the grain.
It's with the stinger. So if the stinger's in an angle, you would pull it like that away. And if you grab it, what you do, you grab that sack and you mash it. And you just mash all that venom in there. And, I mean, it's according where they sting you. On my arms and legs, it don't bother me. But if they sting me, my face, I say words I don't usually say. It ain't no fun.
Do you have a favorite recipe that uses honey other than just sticking it in your
I like
coffee?
them with barbecue sauce on ribs. You get your favorite barbecue and put some honey in it. You just got to be careful, because honey will burn quicker.
Yeah. Is it sweeter than sugar?
Sure. Yeah, it
is.
It is. To me, it is. And there's different flavors. I mean, you've used orange honey or clover, it gives the barbecue, the ribs, a little different flavor.
So the hot honey seems to be
That's
a trend right now. You gave me a jar of that last time I was at your house.
Was it good?
I haven't used it yet because I haven't cooked outside, because I'm not quite sure where I should put it, but it probably would go on some type of meat.
It's a big deal. I got a good friend up in Folkestone or McClenny, Florida, and he packs honey. He says the hot honey is his biggest seller right now.
This is from a guy named Walker from Jacksonville, and he's talking about bee vaccines, and is it true that the stings will result in some form of impotence? And if so, can they just use that as a vasectomy? And I'm not sure if that's a legitimate
That's
question.
the first one for me.
But hey, Walker, don't stick a whole hive down your pants. And maybe
I'm going to
we'll have
leave it
that
alone
problem.
because this could go way off, but I've never heard that.
I haven't either.
I've been stung a lot of times, but there is some research in bee stings for Parkinson's,
Okay.
and I can't really. I'm not sure what they're saying, but I know they're using some of the bee venom to treat Parkinson's.
So here's another one from Walker, and I'm not sure Walker's a legitimate guy. So Eli, if you could do a little better job of screening, but he wants to know if bee pollen can be used to stimulate hair growth and reduce male pattern baldness. Because if it does, I might put a bee bonnet on.
I need a lot of that, but I've never heard that either. I'd like to meet Walker and find out where
I think he's spending too much time on the internet.
No, I haven't. Okay. I haven't heard that. Now they do. I know honey's being used in burn treatments because we know that bacteria don't live in honey, and so I know that they're using in the burn centers some sort of honey mask or something to put on burns to keep the infection out.
So here's one from Karen, who's probably a lot more legitimate than Walker. But, and I think you talked a little bit about the elasticity of it. And are they just starting to use honey or the byproducts of honey in beauty products, or has it been around for a while?
I think it has. I think it's been around for 20 years or so, at least 20 years. I mean, I've even seen hair shampoos now infused with honey and stuff like that. But
maybe the ants, if you lay down on the ground, the ants might come up instead of strapping Spam to your head, maybe a little bee honey or something.
Yeah, that could be.
Does it help with arthritis? You had mentioned Parkinson's.
I told you a story. I can tell you a quick story. So we was working bees down in Sebring one time years ago, and this carload of northerners came up. The old gentleman got out, and I was hollering, saying, no, don't get any closer. And he kept walking. He said, hey, I heard that bee stings help for arthritis. And about the time I said it, this bee pops him right between the eyes. And he turns around and then runs as hard as as well as he could, gets in the car. And I'm thinking, oh, my gosh. Well, the car gets down about a half mile, and it just screeches, and everybody bails out. So evidently a bunch of bees got in the car and all, but they say it does.
He was cured.
They say it does help arthritis. I've got arthritis, and maybe I would have it a lot worse if I didn't get the bee stings, but I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
What's the future of the bee industry? I mean, you've talked about Einstein saying if the bees go, we're all done in 7 years.
Right.
So is the appropriate amount of attention being paid to the bee industry, to keeping it alive, keeping it healthy? Do you have a good bee lobby?
Washington is really, there's programs out there for the beekeepers, some of the subsidy programs. There's the ELAP and the NAP, and those more has to deal with natural disasters. The Obama administration enacted I think it was called the Pollination Act, and reserving more land for natural bee forage. So there is the buzz around because there is some concern in our food supply. Is there enough? I'm not sure about that. I've noticed in the last 7 or 8 years, there's a lot of stuff on the nightly news about bees and stuff. I'd like there to be more because I don't think people realize how important keeping bees alive is to our well-being as far as our food supply. The industry does. I mean, there's some pessimism out there because farming's tough. I don't care if you're a beekeeper or cotton or soybean, corn farmer.
Pick a crop.
Just pick a crop. Watermelons, the citrus industry, what them guys are going through. But I think in my mind, as long as we need to eat, there's going to be a need for beekeepers.
Another question that Karen asked was, if you come across bees in your backyard, in a tree, in a building or something, what should a hive.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, typically I will call you or your wife,
Right.
and you'll say, "Well, call an exterminator." And as soon as you say that, I said, "Yep, that's what you told me last time. I just forgot to do it."
Right.
But who would?
Well,
who would you typically call an exterminator? I think.
Yeah, because in 30 years ago, I would have been there in an hour. Because
Right.
that's kind of,
Free bees.
Right. It was pretty much free bees. But now with me, there's a couple issues. One is the diseases. Number two is the Africanized bees. Because Florida does have, they're here. They're not like you saw in the news where they're the stuff you see in the movies where they're killing people.
They're
and
mean
all
little
that.
buggers.
But they are mean. They come in the port of Tampa through the ships that went through the Panama Canal. But so I can't go get them and put them in my operation when I don't know what diseases they have and that. Having said that, if usually in the springtime, that's when we start getting, it's a swarm. So
Right.
you walk out your backyard and you see this ball of bees and you're thinking, oh, I got to call a beekeeper. Well, usually in 24 hours they go. So what they do, they swarm. The hive, wherever they're at, gets too crowded. There's too much honey, so half of them leaves. They go out and sit in a tree for hanging on a bush or whatever for 24 hours. They send out scouts. They find another crack in an oak tree or you're somewhere in your house, and then they leave. And that's what I tell most people. Now, you do have the bees that get in the water meter that's a big deal. I don't know why they want to get water meters or underneath your house and stuff. If they're small, and I tell people if you're not really scared of them, the best thing to do is go to Walmart and get you some Bengal flying insects. Spray it, shoots 10 feet away, and you can just sit there. Do it at night. Don't do it in the daytime. Bees don't fly at night, so they're all home. If you do it in the daytime, 60% of them's out there foraging. So if you spray and kill that eye, then all them workers come back and they're mad because they're home. And then you got problems. So do it at night. They're all home, and just empty the bottle. Just empty it on, and usually you'll kill them. Worst comes to worst, there's some bee exterminators. You can look them up. There's one in Winter Haven called Be Serious.
Yep,
Good
I've
friend
called
of
them
mine,
before.
Jason Derringer.
You told me about them.
Good guy. So you can get them, but they're going to cost you $300 to get
Okay.
rid of them.
How do farmers find you to hire you to put your hive? I mean, I know you've done this for 43 years.
Right.
You're probably a fairly well-known commodity in this business, but how do you market yourself, or do you or just word
Well,
of mouth?
I've
Is
been
that how
so
you guys-
blessed because it's been word of mouth, because I kind of started this thing from the get-go when they started needing bees for pollination.
Right.
I mean, so the melon farmers, they're close-knit families, just like beekeepers, but they had the conventions every year. If I was say I was going to buy a beekeeping outfit out, I would go to the melon convention or the almond. There's next week's the almond convention in Fresno, and set me up a booth, and
like anything else, just give out your card.
give
and
out
be there,
your
be ready to
cards.
answer.
Service is our priority. You wouldn't think, well, how do you give service to a farmer? Well, there's good bees and bad bees. Our farmers, California, we get inspected. We have a outfit that comes and checks our bees for hive strength, and we have to be at a minimum. Melon farmers, if you go out and put a weak hive and that melon farmer's paying you $60, $70 a hive, he's not going to get their bees are weak. So I've just gotten a great reputation of having good bees, and if there's an issue, whether I think it's an issue or not, a farmer calls me and he's not happy, we make it right.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
care.
all service.
It's all service. We kind of take Mr. George Jenkins' attitude. If it ain't right, we're going to give you money back.
Yeah.
So,
So the last question, I guess, is how do listeners, if they want to get in the bee business, how would they do it? Do you retail your honey, or is it just a byproduct of what you?
Right.
It's something you get from leasing your bees out. And how do we promote your business?
well, if a person wants to get into bee business, I would suggest, like we said earlier, join the extension agent, joining a bee club.
Any county extension agent should have.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. There's actually, it's called Man Lake, and they're up there north of Winter Haven. Andrew runs it. I know him. They are great. You can go up there and they can put you they got hobby kits where you can. And I'm not sure what they are, $300 or $400 where you get the box and the bee suit and all the smokers, the smoker that you use and stuff like that. And
is that really important, the smoker?
It's very important for us.
You still use it?
Every time we get out of the truck, we light a smoker. Now,
Really?
Does it calm bees down? Not like people think. They think, well, as you smoke them, what it does is basically makes the bees think, oh, crap, there's a fire. So they start sucking up honey, and they get their gut full, and then they're so lethargic.
They just aren't as aggressive.
It just kind of takes their mind off of you, but it don't do 100%. So you got 100,000 bees in there. There's still probably 10,000 in there that's going to want to bite or sting you.
That was from my cousin Brad, who is in the bee business a little bit. He's a weekend warrior.
Right. And
so do you have a private label that you sell on the internet or retail anywhere,
my wife has been trying for 5 years.
Okay.
Just ain't got done yet. It's called Honey Bell
Okay.
Bee Company, and that label we've got it branded and everything, but we're using it, but we're not marketing it yet. That's something we might want to do down the road. It's just, with me, my time's in bees. It's a lot to market this stuff. So,
is there anything I didn't ask that you said, well, I really would like to get this little bit of information out, or we cover most everything?
I think you've done a pretty good job. I'm sitting here racking my brain, but I can't think of anything
Eli makes me look very good.
major to tell everybody, but bees are very important, and they're amazing. Like I say, I still think about it, and I still see stuff that just is crazy. The bees, there's called the wiggle dance, and it's weird because you can be in a bee yard and you can just go and take a drop of honey or put in a jar cap 50 yards away, just pour it in there, go back to the bee yard, and just give them a little bit of time, and you'll see them start. It's amazing how quick they find it, and they come back and they do this. They waggle their butts, and it's kind of a figure eight. And basically, what they're doing,
I saw a movie about that in the 8th grade.
It tells
biology.
them that they're telling the directions pretty much where to go to find the honey, and so that stuff just amazes me. I see weird stuff that I'm like, and I just heard the other day, or not the other day, a year ago, that sometimes bees, darkness gets on them and they'll sleep out. They'll just lie on a flower or something and stay there till the next morning. And
wow.
So I'm learning. I never quit learning in this industry.
So I said one last question, and I wasn't quite truthful because another one came up earlier and I didn't ask it. How did the hurricanes affect your industry? Do they just sweep the bees away? Do they wipe out your hives?
We have been so blessed where I'm at because we're on high ground. I have a lease with Mosaic and Clear Springs where we winter our bees for the winter, and that's another long story. But so when we come out of pollination, we bring them out there, put them out here and around the mine pits, and we let them clean themselves. They get rid of all the bad pollen and stuff that's got all the pesticides and the fungicides. And also, I've been very lucky. The beehives are low to the ground, so your wind field on a hurricane is pretty high, 8 or 9 feet. But I've got great friends that live in Fort Myers and in Inglewood that they don't even know where their bees are.
Wow. They
got washed away, and thank goodness we got some of these. The Farm Service got some programs that helps recoup some of that money. It's you're dealing with the federal government, so you're jumping through a bunch of hoops.
Right.
But
we've got to reestablish the colonies.
We do,
it's so
and that's the reason they got these programs out there, because it is very important.
Good. Well, Robbie, thank you very much for coming in. I mean, I know a lot more about honey and bees than I did even before after spending the last 10, 15 years.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I hope you have enjoyed it too, those that are listening. And I hope you'll join us next time on Todd's podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Hey, everybody. I want to thank you for listening to Todd's podcast. This has been your host, Todd Dantzler. As always, don't forget to rate, review, follow, and subscribe to Todd's podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you have any questions for me or any suggestions for future guests, please call or text our number at 863-288-0944 or visit todddantzler.com. Again, that's 863-288-0944 or visit my website, todddantzler.com. I look forward to hearing your questions and feedback, and please take care.